Hello, third grade, and welcome to lesson 12-2. In this lesson, we're going to talk about fractions and regions. So let's go ahead and watch our short video lesson, and then we will jump into our notes and our guided practice together.
How can you show and name parts of a region? Think about this question during the lesson. Mr. Peters served part of a pan of enchilada casserole to a friend. What does each part of the whole pan of casserole represent? What part was served? What part is left?
All these parts look pretty tasty, that's for sure.
In this problem, what is the whole?
Now here, when we're talking about the whole, we're talking about the total number of pieces, not just the ones that are left, but how many we're able to fit. So this is broken up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the whole is 6 pieces.
The whole is the whole pan of enchilada casserole. Into how many equal parts did Mr. Peters cut the whole pan of casserole? What fraction is assigned to each part? How do you know?
Okay, so we just talked about how this is cut into 6 equal parts. So one of these parts is 1 out of the 6 equal parts, or we would write that as 1/6. So 1/6.
Mr. Peters cut the whole pan of casserole into 6 equal parts. The fraction 1/6 is assigned to each part because there are 6 equal parts. The whole casserole is divided into 6 equal parts. Each part is 1/6 of the whole. You can use fractions to represent more than one of the equal parts. 6 copies of 1/6 is 6/6. So the whole is 6/6. The unit fraction is 1/6. Which part of a fraction tells the number of copies of the unit fraction?
Select your answer.
The numerator is the number of copies of the unit fraction. 2 copies of 1/6 is 2/6. 2/6 of the casserole was served. 4 copies of 1/6 is 4/6. 4/6 of the casserole is left. Which part of the fractions are the same? Why? The denominators are the same because they show the total number of equal parts for each situation. Now you know how you can show and name parts of a region.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into our notes and our guided practice and explain this a little bit more. So our question that we're focusing on is, how can you show and name parts of a region? A region is just like an area or a shape. So the number that's above the fraction line is called the numerator. That shows the number of parts that you have. The number that's listed, or the number that's written below the fraction line, is called the denominator. That shows the total number of equal parts in your region or your shape. So over here, I have the fraction 2/6, or 2/6. The number in my numerator is 2. The number in my denominator is 6. So the number 2 shows how many parts are colored in out of the 6 total parts that I have. So your bottom number is your total pieces. Your top number are the number of pieces that you have. So over here, I have 2 out of the 6 total pieces. Those are the ones that I colored. Let's take a look at our first example. It says, Pat made a garden in the shape of a rectangle and divided it into 4 equal parts. She planted flowers in 3 of the parts. Draw a picture of her garden. So I already annotated our question. 4 equal parts. I circled the 4. We circled the 3 that shows that she planted flowers in 3 parts, and we need to draw her garden. So I drew out a rectangle that I cut into 4 equal parts. And then I drew flowers in 3 out of the 4 parts, or I could have just shaded them in if I wanted to. So the question says, how many parts of the region have flowers? Write this as a fraction. So I know 3 out of my 4 parts have flowers. So that's 3/4 of the garden that has flowers in it. How much of the garden does not have flowers? So out of the whole garden, 1 of the 4 pieces is empty. So 1/4 of the garden doesn't have flowers in it. Now notice our denominator, our bottom number is the same. We still have 4 total pieces. We're just counting different parts of it. We're counting the parts with flowers first, and we're counting the part without flowers, but it's still out of the same total 4 pieces of her garden. Let's take a look at another example. Now here you can see that our shapes are colored in, but the question is asking us something very specific. It says, write the unit fraction that represents each part of the whole. So remember the units always have a 1 in the numerator because unit comes from the prefix uni, which means 1. So your numerator, your top number, is always 1. It's showing 1 part of the whole. So over here, we can see that our shape is split into 4 pieces. So 1/4 is the unit fraction that represents this shape. Over here, our shape is split into 8 equal pieces. So our unit fraction would be 1/8. Here, our shape is split into 2 equal pieces. So our unit fraction is 1/2 or 1/2. This shape is split into 5 equal pieces. My unit fraction is 1/5. Now, it didn't ask me to name the shaded region. This is why I tell you guys, pay really close attention to the directions that are being given, because you'll see something like this and you'll think you're supposed to do one thing, and unless you read the directions, you may get your answer completely wrong. Let's take a look at our guided practice. For number 1, it says, what fraction names all 6 pieces of the pizza that was in the pan? So if there are 6 equal parts, then 6/6 represents the whole. That means you have all 6 of the 6 pieces. Number 2, Mrs. Patel made a cake. What fraction of the whole does each piece represent? So there's a total of 8 pieces. We're ignoring that some of them were eaten right now. So the total is 8 pieces. So the unit fraction that represents each piece is 1/8 of the whole cake. For number 3, it says in the picture above, how many 1/8 size pieces were eaten? What fraction of the total cake was eaten? So we see that 2 pieces are gone. So 2 of the 8 pieces were eaten. And if we're going to write that in fraction form, we're going to say 2/8 of the cake was eaten. For numbers 4, 5, and 6, we're going to be using this shape over here to answer the questions. It says, how many 1/3 size pieces are blue? Here we can say that 2 of the 1/3 size pieces are blue, or we would write that in fraction form for number 5 as 2/3. So this tells us that 2 out of the 3 total pieces are blue. And here we can see that 2 pieces out of the 3 total pieces are blue. For number 6, what fraction names all of the parts? So 1, 2, 3 pieces out of 3 pieces. So 3 out of 3, which is the whole, names all of my parts. That's it for this lesson, 3rd grade. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have an amazing day. Take care. Bye-bye.